You're not surviving all zombie outbreaks equally. Some give you a fighting chance. Others, you're dead before you finish reading the news alert. Not all zombie apocalypses are created equal. Welcome to Outbreak Files. Today, we're ranking zombie outbreaks from easiest to completely unwinnable. And before you start thinking, I'd survive any of them, no, you wouldn't. You might survive the bottom tier if you're smart and lucky. You will not survive the top tier, even if you do everything right. Because some outbreaks aren't designed to be survived. They're designed to end humanity in the most efficient way possible. Let's start at the bottom. The outbreaks you might actually survive. Tier 1 is the warm-up round. The only category where don't be stupid is an actual survival strategy. These are your slow burn, classic zombie outbreaks. Romero-style shamblers, slow infection spread, lots of warning time. If you die in one of these, it's because you screwed up. Not because the outbreak was unbeatable. Characteristics. Zombies are slow. Walking speed. Maybe a light jog if you're unlucky. You can outrun them. A healthy adult with decent cardio can literally walk away from danger. Infection spreads through bites only. No airborne transmission. No water contamination. You have to get close to get infected. Incubation takes hours or days. You have time to notice symptoms. Time to quarantine. Time to make hard decisions before someone turns. Infrastructure fails slowly. The grid stays up for weeks, maybe months. Society doesn't collapse overnight. It erodes gradually. Examples like Night of the Living Dead, The Walking Dead, early seasons, Shaun of the Dead, most classic Romero zombies. Why you might survive. Because the outbreak rewards basic competence. Stay out of cities. Avoid large groups of infected. Fortify a rural position. Ration supplies. Don't do anything monumentally stupid like firing guns near hordes or trusting strangers immediately. Follow those rules, and you've got a legitimate shot at outlasting the initial chaos. You have time to think, time to plan, time to make mistakes, and learn from them without immediately dying. Survival rating 30-40% for people who prep early and stay smart. That's not great odds, but it's better than every other tier on this list. What kills most people anyway? Overconfidence. You think because the zombies are slow that the outbreak is easy, so you get casual, you make noise, you take unnecessary risks, and then you're surrounded by 50 slow zombies, and it turns out slow doesn't matter when they're coming from every direction and you've got nowhere to run. Slow zombies aren't harmless, they're just patient, and patience wins when you run out of stamina, supplies, or options. Tier 2 is where the training wheels come off, and the apocalypse starts playing offense. Now we're escalating. These outbreaks have one or two elements that make survival exponentially more difficult. Maybe the zombies are faster. Maybe the infection spreads through multiple vectors. Maybe society collapses in days instead of weeks. You can still survive these, but your margin for error just shrunk to almost nothing. Characteristics. Zombies have some enhanced capability. Maybe they jog. Maybe they climb. Maybe they're smarter than typical shamblers and can open doors or use basic tools. Infection spreads faster. Could be bites plus scratches. Could be fluid transmission. Could be a shorter incubation period that turns people in hours instead of days. Infrastructure collapses within a week. The grid fails fast. Water treatment stops. Supply chains are dead on arrival. You're in survival mode immediately with no grace period. Panic is worse because the threat is more immediate. People lose their minds faster. More violence, more chaos, more stupid decisions made in fear. Examples like 28 Days Later, Dawn of the Dead, Left 4, Dead Universe, Train to Busan. Why survival is harder. Speed changes everything. You can't casually walk away from danger anymore. You need to sprint, and humans aren't built for sustained sprinting. You gas out, and then you're done. Fast zombies don't give you room to think, plan, or recover from mistakes. One wrong turn, and you're cornered. One moment of hesitation, and you're swarmed. Add in rapid infection spread, and suddenly every encounter is high stakes. A scratch is a death sentence. You can't afford to fight unless you have to. But running isn't always an option when the infected can keep pace with you. Survival rating is 10 to 15% for the extremely prepared and ruthless. Most people are dead in the first week. What kills most people? Exhaustion. You can't maintain the intensity these outbreaks demand. Every supply run is a sprint. Every encounter drains adrenaline you can't get back. You're operating at maximum stress every waking hour, and humans aren't built for that. Your decision-making deteriorates. Your reflexes slow, and the second you're not at 100%, the infected catch you. The survivors in Tier 2 aren't the strongest or the fastest. They're the ones who knew when to hide instead of run, when to abandon people instead of trying to save them, and when to accept that heroism is just suicide with better marketing. Welcome to Tier 3, the scenarios where survival stops being realistic and becomes purely theoretical. These outbreaks have multiple catastrophic elements stacked together: fast zombies and rapid infection spread, airborne transmission and short incubation, special infected types and coordinated behavior. You're not fighting one threat anymore. You're fighting 5 simultaneously. Characteristics are: zombies have multiple enhanced capabilities. They're fast, strong, can climb, hunt in packs, or have special mutations that create new threat types. Infection spreads through multiple vectors: bites, scratches, airborne particles, contaminated water, bodily fluids. You can get infected without ever seeing a zombie. Infrastructure collapses in 48 to 72 hours. Total collapse. No power, no water, no communication, no organized response. You're in the Stone Age before the first weekends. Mutation or evolution. The infected don't stay static. They adapt, evolve, or develop new abilities over time. No safe zones. Military response fails. Quarantine zones are overrun. There's no rescue coming. Why survival is nearly impossible? Because you're not just fighting zombies anymore. You're fighting biology itself. Airborne transmission means you can't trust the air you breathe. Water contamination means every drink is a gamble. Multiple infection vectors mean you're constantly exposed. The special infected types push this into nightmare territory. In The Last of Us, infected progress through stages: runners, stalkers, clickers, bloaters, each more dangerous than the last. Clickers can't even see, but will tear you apart with echolocation and brute strength. And here's the worst part: these outbreaks evolve. What works in week 1 doesn't work in week 4, because the infected have adapted. They're learning patrol routes. They're coordinating attacks. You're not fighting a static threat. You're fighting an enemy that gets smarter, stronger, and more lethal the longer the outbreak continues. Survival rating is 1 to 5% for the exceptionally lucky, exceptionally prepared, and exceptionally ruthless. And even then, you're probably just delaying the inevitable. What kills most people? Inevitability. You can dodge one threat type. You can avoid one infection vector. But when there are 6 different ways to die, and the infected are actively hunting you with enhanced capabilities, the math stops working in your favor. Eventually, maybe in a week, maybe in a month, you run out of luck, resources, or safe spaces, and then it's over. This is Tier 4, where we cross from nightmare into apocalyptic. These aren't outbreaks you survive in any traditional sense. These are extinction-level events, where the best-case scenario is hiding in a bunker for years and hoping the surface eventually becomes livable again. Characteristics are: infection is instantaneous or near instantaneous, seconds to minutes, not hours or days. By the time you even realize there's an outbreak, half the population is already gone. Zombies are apex predators. They're not just fast, they're faster than you. They're not just strong, they can tear through barriers. They don't just hunt, they coordinate like a hive mind. Global saturation within days. The infection spreads so efficiently that there are no safe countries, no isolated regions, no unaffected zones. Everywhere is infected simultaneously. Environmental factors. Maybe the infected can survive extreme conditions humans can't. Maybe they don't need food or water, so they never weaken. Why survival is mathematically improbable? Because the infection moves faster than information. You don't get a warning. You don't get time to prep. You don't get to leave the city before it's gridlocked. 1 minute you're living your life, and the next minute your neighbor is trying to eat your face, and the entire block is screaming. In World War Z, the movie, the infection takes 12 seconds. 12 seconds from bite to fully turned, sprinting zombie. There's no incubation period, no time to say goodbye, just instant conversion and immediate threat. And the way they swarm, climbing over each other like ants, forming literal waves of bodies to breach walls, means no fortification holds for long. The global saturation is what makes this tier unwinnable. Even if you somehow survive the initial outbreak in your area, it doesn't matter. Every country falls within days. You're on an infected planet with nowhere to run and no reinforcements coming. What kills most people? Everything, simultaneously. You don't die from one mistake. You die because there's no right move. Stay inside, you starve. Step outside, you're swarmed in seconds. Fight, you're outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Run, they're faster. Hide, they find you eventually. No, the real killer isn't the zombies. It's the realization that no amount of skill, preparation, or luck changes the outcome. You're not surviving. You're just choosing how you die. This is it. Tier 5, the absolute worst case. The scenarios where survival isn't even part of the conversation anymore because humanity is functionally extinct within weeks. Characteristics are: infection is unavoidable, airborne, waterborne, surface contamination. You're breathing it, drinking it, touching it. There's no avoiding exposure, only delaying symptoms. The infected don't just kill, they dominate. Enhanced strength, speed, durability, intelligence. Some don't feel pain. Some adapt to tactics. Some are functionally unkillable without specialized tools you don't have. Instant global saturation. Every continent, every country, every city goes critical within 24-48 hours. The infection is intelligent, not zombie intelligence. Actual strategic thinking, coordinated attacks, trap setting, learning from failures. Why survival is impossible? Because you can't fight biology, plus intelligence, plus inevitability. You can't hold your breath forever. You can't seal every crack perfectly. You can't avoid breathing for weeks while waiting for the infection to die out, because it doesn't die out. It's in the air, permanently. The intelligent infected turn this from horrific to extinction level. In I Am Legend, the Darkseekers aren't just strong and fast. They're learning. They set traps. They adapt to patterns. They coordinate attacks. You're not fighting individual threats anymore. You're fighting an organized force that studies your behavior and counters it. Survival rating is 0.01%, and that's being generous. That's not you might make it. That's statistically, someone on the entire planet might survive through sheer cosmic luck, and it's definitely not you. Here's what should terrify you more than any specific tier. In a real outbreak, you won't know which tier you're in until it's too late. Day 1 looks the same, whether you're in Tier 1 or Tier 5. People are panicking. News reports are contradictory. The infected are spreading. You don't know if they're slow or fast. You don't know if a bite is the only infection vector, or if you're breathing death right now. So you make decisions based on incomplete information. You stay in the city because you think you have time. Whoops, you're in Tier 4. You don't bother with a gas mask because bites are the only transmission you've heard about. Whoops, it's airborne. You fortify your home. Whoops, the infected can climb and your fortress is a tomb. By the time you figure out which tier you're in, you've already made 3 fatal mistakes. And in tiers 3-5, 3 mistakes means you're already dead. You just don't know it yet. Here's the final truth. You don't get to choose your tier. The outbreak chooses for you. And you won't know which one you're in until you've already made irreversible decisions based on the wrong assumptions. Tier 1 is survivable if you're competent, but competence is rarer than you think. Tier 2 is survivable if you're exceptional, and most people aren't exceptional when they're terrified and exhausted. Tier 3 is survivable if you're lucky, and luck runs out eventually. Tier 4 is survivable if you're underground, and even then, you're just outlasting it in a hole. Tier 5 isn't survivable, period. You're dead. Everyone's dead. The only question is whether you go down fighting or accept it. The apocalypse doesn't care about fairness. It doesn't care about preparation. It just cares about one thing. Did you understand what you were actually facing before it was too late? Most people don't. Most people die confused, still thinking they had a chance when the reality was decided hours ago. You just learned which apocalypses you can't survive. So here's your question. Tier 1, where you might live for decades in hell, or Tier 5, where it's over fast. Which would you actually choose? Drop your answer below. Then subscribe, because if you picked wrong, you'll need every reality check we've got. The Outbreak doesn't care which tier you wanted. It only cares which tier you got.